What's up, everybody? Today's video I'm going to be prepping this fairing and my rear fender for some primer. I've already started wet sanding this fairing, knock the gloss off of it. As you can tell here, I got the spot taped off that I want to keep gloss black. The rest of the fairing is going to go gray, as well as the inside. So I'm going to get back to go ahead and hit this thing with some sandpaper one more time, and then I'll clean it off, and I'll get the rear fender out here, and I'll give that thing a quick scuff, and then I'll set my my paint booth back up and start priming. I'm gonna go grab the fender real quick, give that thing a quick scuff down, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, I'm back. Gonna give this rear fender a quick scuff. I mean, it's raw metal, so it's pretty much ready to go. I just gotta get this this oily, greasy film off and kind of scuff the area up a little bit so the primer will stick really nice to it. So I'm gonna wash it down real quick and then get started. And if you're wondering what sandpaper I used for the fairing, I just wet sanded it with some 400 grit just to knock the glossy finish off. So yeah, that was what I didn't want to go too heavy and ruin the material. For the rear fender, I'm going to be using some 320. Probably could use 400, but I'm going to start with 320. See how it goes, and I'll go from there. Got the fairing and the fender scuffed up enough, good enough to start laying some primer. I'm gonna give them a quick minute to dry off a little bit, and while I wait, I'm gonna go ahead and hang some plastic so that I can use this little makeshift booth one more time. I'll be getting a much larger booth. I'll be purchasing one. Again, it's not anything special or perfect. It's just a pop-up canopy tent. I'm going to be using that as my paint booth, just so I can have a lot more room to move around when I'm actually painting, because I want my final paint, my final coat to be nice and glass smooth. So I'm going to need a lot more room to move around. So I'm going to go ahead and start hanging some plastic in this booth so that I can start priming. everybody, got the paint booth set up. Gonna wipe the fairing down with some wax and grease remover and then hang it up and start priming. So take care of that real quick and we'll lay some primer down. All right, everybody, got the primer in the gun. About to lay down the first coat. I'll close my flap, let everything dry up. About 10-15 minutes. Hit it again with another coat. So, about to get started. All right, guys, this is the first coat of primer. As you can see, this sprayer that I have is putting it out kind of blotchy, which is not a big deal. It's just priming coat. I'll be able to sand all that stuff smooth. But whenever I go to lay my actual paint, I'm gonna definitely upgrade to a air compressor and a better spray gun. But for now, that'll work. Like I said, I can sand out any of that roughness and get it smooth so that whenever I lay my base coat, everything will turn out really nicely. I'm gonna let this thing dry for a few more minutes and then I'll get started with the second coat of primer, and then I'll just leave this thing until I'm ready for paint. All right, guys, while I wait for the fairing to get done, I'm gonna go ahead and prime this fender out here. Probably should wait, but I'm gonna go ahead. That way I can use the rest of this paint, this primer that's in this gun, so that it doesn't dry up in the gun. All right, guys, fairing is dry. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the second coat on this fairing and then go ahead and second coat my fender. And then I'll let them dry for a good 20-30 minutes, take them inside and let them hang out with the rest of my tins. And next week I'll be ready for paint. So I'm gonna get started painting or priming the fairing. Now I'm going to run over and prime the rear fender. Alright, got my second coat of primer on both items. Gonna go ahead, rinse the gun out, let them dry, and then take them inside and let you guys check it out. Okay, got the workstation cleaned up a little bit. Gonna let these dry out a little bit longer. and I'll take them inside, let them hang out till I'm ready to, you know, prep them the rest of the way to do some painting. There's the fairing all primed up. I think it turned out all right. Like I said, this gun's spitting it out kind of blotchy, but I think the end result will be better. You know, like I said, I'll be getting a compressor and a gun. That way I can make sure that this final paint job turns out, you know, crystal clear. But yeah, I'm gonna give them a few more minutes and then I'll take them inside and show you the final result of the priming of the fairing and fender. Recap on all of the events from today. Primered the rear fender and the T-Sport fairing for my dyna. I'll get you some close-ups here in a second. Just wanted to, you know, kind of get a full overview of the whole setup. Right now it's just primer, but it's going to be a similar finished product color, so that way everybody can kind of see what the look I'm going for with. So I'm going to get you some close-up shots now. Alrighty, rear fender turned out really nicely, I think. And again, I'll have to scuff them up a little bit and reprime them before painting, because the instructions that came with the primer said that if it sits more than 3 days, you gotta sand and repaint. So the only issue that I have here, and it's not a major issue, there's a little, like, and I don't really, I'm guessing that the paint isn't thin enough for the type of gun that I'm using, but as you can see, it's kind of like a really textured finish. It's not a big deal. I'll be able to sand that stuff down and get it smooth for paint, but I'll be upgrading to a compressor and a proper gun when it comes to paint, when it comes time to paint. But this, you know, for now, everything's primered. Next step is just getting paint and finishing this whole paint setup, putting everything back on the bike and sending her down the road.